everyone. Welcome to another great webinar we have in store for you. Today it's titled Get the Most from Your Ad Budgets. And we're specifically going to have our audience, or our experts talk about search advertising and paid social. So very excited for this content, something that I'm looking to learn a lot about as well. All right, a couple of housekeeping items before we get into it. We are recording this session, so you'll receive that recording within 48 hours after we conclude today, so keep an eye on your inbox. We also, this is being produced on a web-based platform, so if you are experiencing any connectivity issues, hearing us, seeing us, please use the Q&A chat. We have a team member on our end that's monitoring that for you. There's also some resources that we've have in a list for you on the audience console, so definitely check out those resources. And our last housekeeping item is ZoomInfo is a publicly traded company. This presentation may contain forward-looking statements. Any buying decisions you make should be made based only upon currently available products and offerings. This is our complete safe harbor statement displayed here for your review. We've also added it, if you really want to look into it, added it in that resource list to take a closer look. Awesome. Alrighty, so our fabulous panel that we have here for you, Lauren Temler, she is the principal demand generation expert here for us today. I'm really bad at saying her title, so I apologize. But Lauren, please tell us what you've been doing here at ZoomInfo and your expertise over the years around this topic.
Sure. I've been at ZoomInfo for almost 2 years. I'm focused in our products for recruiters and HR, which is TalentOS and Comparably.com, growing their program with demand gen, working with my good friend Colin over here. And I've been working with Google Ads and Microsoft Ads and previously Bing Ads for almost 15 years. So seeing really the evolution and the development of a lot of different products and offerings from that. And I look forward to sharing some expertise today.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. And we've got Colin Chang. He is a manager on the demand generation team. Colin, thank you for being here. And let us know what you've been doing over the last couple of years here at ZoomInfo and your expertise.
Thank you, Becca. So like LT said, I work with her closely as I am in charge of all the paid social here at ZoomInfo. So I do all the paid media through like LinkedIn, Facebook, Snap, TikTok, any social channel you can think of, we try to explore it. And also review sites like Capterra, just trying to get leads through these websites. And I primarily do lead gen, as we have an organic social media team, as I will explain later, like the difference between organic and paid.
Awesome. All righty. Well, you all, audience, you're definitely in good hands for the rest of this presentation. Lauren and Colin, take it away.
I just want to thank everyone for being here today. Colin and I hope we can give you a few actionable insights to help your current and future campaigns and kind of better maximizing your ROI on these channels. I really like using these channels, but it can be challenging. Even if you've been using it for years, there's new features and new products come out all the time. And a lot of them are developed to make those companies like LinkedIn and Google more money, but they can also make you more money and your company more money. So we hope we can help you do that today. So what we're going to go over is budgeting, bidding, audiences, tracking, content, and tips and tricks. So a little bit in all of these things. I think each of these things alone could be a 45-minute webinar. At any of these channels, we could probably spend 45 minutes talking about Facebook budgeting and an hour talking about Google content, but we want to kind of give you just a couple of actionable things you can do in each of these sections. So getting started with budgeting, the first thing is always how much can you afford? How much can you afford to spend and maybe not get a return on is really key. What are the search volumes for the keywords you're looking at? If you are selling sneakers, let's say, or tennis shoes, that's a lot of monthly search volume for that. That could be very expensive very quickly. But if you are selling a marketing ABM tool, there could also be a lot of search volume, but it may not be as expensive. Obviously, I'm mixing B2B and B2C keywords, but it's good to get some understanding of what that monthly search volume is for what you're looking to bid on in the search space. And then really kind of honing in on your keyword lists of can we start with 25 to 50 is probably a good place to start on the Google side, and then looking at those monthly search volumes. And then in the Google tool, it will kind of give you an estimate of how much you need to spend per month.
All right, thanks, LT. So just to set everything straight I'm just gonna do LinkedIn and Facebook paid social, because those are the two most used that we use at ZoomInfo. And especially for B2B marketing, Facebook and LinkedIn are the best tools for lead gen. And so before you get started with these tools, you got to really know your audience, because if you don't, you're going to waste a lot of money. And that ties into, like LT said about keyword lists, it's very important to have prospect lists. And not to toot our own horn, here at ZoomInfo, we have really good lists. So that has helped my marketing tremendously. And so really targeting specific people with lists is helpful. But with LinkedIn, if you don't have access to lists, it's a good way to get started with a native. And I will dive into that deeper later. And then also have creatives ready to go. Don't go in creating a campaign, you're like, oh no, I need a creative, and just like get a stock image. Really think about the image you want. Really look at your competitors and what they're doing. So it's really important to have good creatives, because that, in a way, that's your branding, and that's what people will remember you by. And another thing is know your budget. With paid social, you can really exhaust your budget just like that. So really understanding the bidding process and how much budget you want to use is really important, because you want to really pace your budget well so you can see what's working and what's not. So we're going to talk about bidding right now.
So in Google Bidding, you can go inside your Google settings. There's a whole bidding section, and you can set it by campaign. And I think it's important, a couple things I want to pull out here just to think of mind, and where I've lost money in the past. I've lost money in locations. I've not excluded locations. I had a product that wasn't available in every state, and what I learned then, that it made a lot of sense to exclude all the places you weren't, and countries, states that you weren't in, and then do an inclusion list of all the places you wanted to target. And for that product, I had a big office in San Francisco. I had a big office in Washington, D.C., and those were places I wanted to overbid on in those location things. So those were really key for me there. I think looking at a marketing objective is really important here, and then just kind of going through where you want to be on networks as well. And you can really create some marketing objectives around, do you want lead conversions? Do you want website visits? This is where you can set a max spend per day. That's been really key for me. I've had budgets as small as $500 a month. So my daily spend was maybe $30, which does not get a lot, but for that product, it was the most I could spend, to $10,000 a month. And then that drops it down. And it's really important to kind of set that, especially if you're starting out with a new campaign or a new ad group. It might make sense to create a bidding strategy just for that new campaign. These can be carried over in your library in Google Ads for all of your campaigns, or you can do a specific campaign and you could create a strategy around just new campaigns. So I'd recommend that.
Okay, so LinkedIn bidding is very important. If you don't bid right, you can just go through your budget in literally a day. So that's why sometimes maybe it's good to add if you don't have a huge budget, to add like a daily cap so you don't go over it. So that's where you have the cost cap. But I like to do manual bidding, and I like to use my own intuition on if I'm going over the budget. So that's the thing about LinkedIn, is you have to keep on monitoring it throughout even the day. And so I like to, so if you see below, there's a recommendation of the bid. So there's no set guide on what to do, but this is like what I like to do. And it's all based on your own feel and intuition and how well your ad's working. So if you see the range in the image on the bottom right, you see that they give you a range between $11 to $28. So when you talk, for example, to your rep, if you have a LinkedIn rep, they'll recommend you going within that range. But what I like to do is bid low to see if I'm getting any bites, because the cost per lead would be lower. And so this really works well in that you could see, instead of exhausting a ton of budget at first, you could see, and if you can see in your average daily spending, if you're not spending a lot, you can increase it. And increasing it, I like to increase it by $4 if nothing's working. And if it's not working by then, I increase it another $4. And so it's just like, although these things are automated, you just got to keep on looking after it. Even if you have an agency, you should look at your account as well, because in a lot of experience, a lot of agencies I work with, they have so many other clients that they can't monitor it as well as you can day by day. So what I recommend is just really know what is happening within your platform. And then for Facebook, it's a little easier, and Facebook overall is a lot cheaper. So in bidding, I just do highest volume, and the budget tends not to be exhausted as much, and you get more leads than LinkedIn, but it's not as high quality, but it's at a lower price. So usually I like to do a lower cost. You could also do a cost cap as well, but I like to start off at highest, get the most of your budget. And you can also do, you have daily budgets, so it'll get the most out of your campaign. And usually with Facebook, you do get more lower cost per lead than LinkedIn. Audiences. Oh, sorry.
So for SEM, for search engine, this is definitely a new development. When I started running Google ad campaigns 15 years ago, we could not do very much with audiences besides a little bit of retargeting website visitors. Now you have intent topics. You can really dig down on job segments, job functions even. And what you can do here is creating segments can really be helpful kind of in overall reporting inside your Google account. You can look and see, like, are you getting higher click-through rates? If you're selling an SMB product and you have sort of kind of an industry around it, I've in the past sold a product that really was focused on the construction space. And so there's a construction and industrials audience built into Google. I could use that, kind of increase the bidding around that, and then also see if they did better in our conversion tracking. You had all of those analytics in there, so that was really great. But they've added new features. This is where they're growing the most. You can really get into some detail, and I like to start with, especially if it's a new campaign, who does my sales team want to talk to? Do they want to talk to business owners? Do they want to talk to recruiters? Do they want to talk to directors of procurement? And trying to kind of find the profile, just as Colin will talk about. Obviously, that data gets a little bit more detailed and specific in LinkedIn. And also, for reasons, because we're using LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows a lot of data about us when we're logged into the platform. But Google does as well. And they also know these kind of intent topics. So creating a segment of people that are also looking to buy an ABM platform or in a marketing thing or in a demand gen space. There's a lot in here, and it's good to look at these and create some segments. And either you can obviously target your campaigns towards them, or just look in reporting if you are getting a lot more conversion from them as well. There's also some basic ones in here. Website visitors, you can upload a customer list for retargeting. I think it's very key as you set up counts that you're doing something with your website visitors. It can be, I know all of us are on the internet. We see the companies that follow us. I can, put a pair of shoes in my cart at Nordstrom, and the shoes will follow me around the internet. Those targeted ads are very effective, and they can really help you as you grow a product that can, even if you're not maybe getting the click-through rates you see, your brand is getting out there, especially with someone who's visited your website. That's a high intent signal that they're on your website. You should make sure that just because they didn't convert and fill out a form or set up a demo time with sales, that they don't forget about you as they go other places on the internet. So those are the key things I think we should talk about here. And for Colin, what are the key ones for paid social?
So one of the key audiences and to really pay attention to is, so I'm going to start with LinkedIn, is their native targeting is very strong. It's stronger than Facebook. So I would say you really have to, know your audience and like really know their pain points and the type and industry up down to industry. And not only can you add audiences, you can actually exclude. So as you can see below, these are the different types. And don't assume like you can just use one. You can use a whole combination. And for example, like what LT said that with retargeting, we use something called the tracking pixel. You could download it on Facebook or LinkedIn, and it just tracks what visitors visit your page, and then you can retarget them. And not only that, especially in LinkedIn, for example, you can do native targeting based on who, and then mix it with retargeting on the pixel. And so you're getting people who visit your website that fits your criteria. Because someone that comes to your website, say you're like a sneaker company and you're trying to find someone who interested in sneakers, but oh no, actually I got a better example. Say you're going into like, you're trying to find a salesperson coming to your website. But instead of a salesperson, it's actually like a IT person. You want to scrub that IT person out so you can match the native with the retargeting pixel, and that's what LinkedIn is really strong about. And I loaded tons of lists in LinkedIn as well, from intent data I get from ZoomInfo, or I get from U2, or I get from Trust Radius. So I use a lot of this intent data for like really high. I'm going to hit on this later with content, but type of content matters with the audience too. So if someone who's into it, have a very intent in buying a product, maybe you want to serve them up free trial ad, or you want to serve them up something that if they're already interested in a certain topic, you serve them up a follow-up topic. Facebook audiences is a little tricky. I don't like to use pure native in Facebook because they only go by interests, and that targeting gets very iffy. So, and retargeting with native I would not recommend that on Facebook. There's a lot of waste because, like I said, you're going to retarget people that have nothing to do with your product. The worst is retargeting, doing lookalikes off your retargeting in Facebook. And I see that a lot, that people do that a lot. And you're basically, what a lookalike is, it's basing off what your leads are coming in. And if you're retargeting people who have nothing to do, there's going to be a lookalike of everything. So you don't want to do that. So the best thing is to download a prospect list and do a lookalike off that list. And that's where we're very efficient with Facebook. And I highly recommend that as well. And another test you can do with an audience is directly upload a list on Facebook and don't do any lookalike and just run it on the list. And this leads me to really test all audiences. You could test audiences in different audiences for each campaign to see what works. And exclusion audience is very important as it eliminates waste. It eliminates a lot of waste. So for example, we target a lot of new customers. So we exclude all existing customers, and that really helps as well.
Colin, do you run lookalikes on existing customers? Is that a feature for Facebook that would be effective?
I do that as well too, LT. That's a great point. And then if you just want to, and then you exclude the existing customers in the exclusion section.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. That's really helpful. I think Facebook, or when you're saying that their native audiences, that's what they're saying are the job titles or like segments that you're looking for Facebook users, but then the native ones in LinkedIn are much more effective. So it's very split. Okay.
You cannot target job titles on Facebook or companies. Okay. You can LinkedIn is a lot more effective that way.
Okay. Because the Facebook, I just want to clarify for my own knowledge, I hope the audience too, that in Facebook, since you don't have your job title in as part of your profile, you have in more of what you're interested in. So for myself, I'm interested in ZoomInfo and HubSpot and Marketo as a marketing demand person. So that would sort of make me a profile for that. but that's not as accurate as what you're saying happens in LinkedIn, where I'm in like user groups and I'm following those companies.
Exactly. And we just with Facebook, it just takes more time to adjust to your audience because you get a lot of waste. And we found a pretty good sweet spot with the lists and lookalikes. And we've been uploading a lot of lists actually from Marketing OS directly into these platforms. And you don't have to like go through the standard, like putting it in a special spreadsheet. It just does it for you. So that has helped a lot. Yeah. And
when you're testing content against audiences, like you were saying, is Facebook set up? I haven't been in a Facebook campaign in a minute. Are you testing, can you test the content? Are they going to be different campaigns or ad groups in Facebook with the content and audiences, or is it kind of come down from the audience and then the content test? I'm just curious if you can see your results of audiences for the same content, like kind of on the same page, perhaps.
That's a good question. So think of it like a funnel. You do one overarching campaign, then you have different audiences called ad sets. Then you put the ads under each ad set, and then you can compare how well the ads are doing. So I would highly recommend like grouping campaigns by targeting and by, if you're doing a local, by basically, I do it by geography.
Okay, that makes sense. Great. So for tracking, this is big with Google. I think you can have a campaign where you're pushing people to your website, which means you have to track. I have sort of the school of thought that you shouldn't send paid traffic anywhere near your website. You don't want to lose them. You want to make sure that they're going to a very funneled landing page where you're getting their details, because you could be spending maybe $200, $300 on getting them to that page. I don't want to lose them to just browsing my website and maybe getting lost. I want to give them a specific buyer's journey. But you can also track all of these conversions. In the past, I've been able to track phone calls, that have come in. There's the GCLID. There's a lot of tracking resources inside your Google Ads account, inside your Microsoft Ads account that you can set up. And so there's just kind of the tracking conversions. Make sure you test. This is a big thing. Make that phone call to your sales team. Let them know they're coming. Use a friend's phone if you're afraid that you're going to get excluded. Test through the website. Make sure those conversions, you're seeing them come through into your CRM and that they're look the right way they should. The other thing to use for tracking, I think, is really good for Google is setting up UTM parameters. And you can do that in your Google Analytics. There's plenty of training documents out there and blogs and YouTube videos on how to do this. But I think that's really, really helpful for me. I've never had in my CRM on the kind of the back end of the funnel, being able to look back and see which keyword they went into. So I've had to kind of build that funnel myself in either Marketo or HubSpot or Salesforce to really look and see, okay, these are my click-throughs. But I have been able to build that out in Google Analytics using UTM parameters and really setting up those really long query string URLs for my landing pages coming out of my ads. So that has been really helpful for me. I've also, it can be, using a third party, landing page tool like Unbounce or Instapages, where it's built for this action and it's built for the tracking, and it has its own native reporting in it that shows you what's coming in and what campaigns are coming through. That can be helpful as well. Those are pretty inexpensive tools. You feel like there's a sort of upgrade you want to do, to kind of up level your SEM efforts. One of those landing page tools, especially if you're on a small team with maybe not that much HTML and developer support, I highly recommend those tools. I think they work really well as an add-on and can be really budget conscious.
All right. So for targeting paid social, just the same thing exactly what LT said. That there's many different ways. Yes. So just harping on, just be open-minded. There's so many different tracking. So as you can see here, it's very important that you know what objective you want. So 98% of my objective is lead gen. But it depends on what you do. So like catalog sales is something we won't do because we're not like Amazon. We don't sell things like through a website, like where you can purchase things. So I do a lot of lead gen, and do a lot of brand awareness. That's the other 2% is brand awareness. So for example, with lead gen, in terms of tracking, I don't use UTMs. I don't use different tracking landing pages. There's a built-in lead form. So when you click on our ad, there's a form you can sign, and it'll automatically that it's associated with the platform. So the lead is actually downloaded within the platform. But if you want it to your CRM, I would highly recommend to get tools like a Zapier that connects it to CRM, and that has worked amazing for us. Like you just connect; it's an easy connection. You just put in like what fields you want, and I would highly recommend when you either if you're doing a landing page or if you're doing these built-in lead forms to really have the fields that you want in there. Having just a name and even like a phone number is not good enough. You want to know the company, you want to know the title, and this helps you weed out bad leads as well. You might not get as many leads, but you're going to get good quality leads. And efficiency is a huge thing with these paid platforms. And you got to know what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to build website traffic, you just pick brand awareness or website traffic and just drive to your website and you use the UTM parameters. And those are highly important, like LT was mentioning. And another example, if you want really like leads and coming in, like solid leads, I would recommend lead generation as well. So really know what your goal is going into it. And you can also test. Like for me, built-in lead forms works a lot better than landing pages. But you can test, like do a brand awareness or website traffic to your landing page, and maybe people convert more there than your lead gen. Maybe they need a second push. But in my experience, the built-in lead forms really takes away that one extra click. So that's why I like it.
Yeah, I think Colin makes a great point there that if you're not getting the right info on your form fields, and there are tools so you can kind of append the data if you're not getting everything on your form fill. But the sales team doesn't want a lead that doesn't have a phone number, doesn't have a business email, doesn't have a job title. I'm going to need to get that data. If it's going to cost me more to get it, or it's going to be kind of a little bit of a stronger ask on the lead side, it still needs to happen that way. So it's definitely worth it. And it's definitely kind of something that has to be built into kind of how you set everything up.
Yes. And another thing to follow up on that, just because you get a lead doesn't mean you just forget about it. A lot of times our team will actually go through and see the leads that are coming in.
Yep.
And this will help you know that you're targeting right. You just getting a lead may feel like a success when you first run it. You're like, whoa, I just got a lead. But you got to really see that it's the right lead.
Yeah, it's gotta come through, and it's gotta, there's plenty of tools out there that help you with this too, of making sure that the phone number is correct, that they're not doing this other thing. And when you're inside LinkedIn, Colin, are they being able to use their LinkedIn details? I know there's like sort of a stronger opt-in with the lead conversion, but I think, we're all pretty savvy now on the internet as shoppers. We know when we fill out a form to get something, we're likely to be contacted. Is that a little bit of an easier ask if they're inside LinkedIn to fill out that form?
Yes, that's a great point, because LinkedIn will take all your information and put it in the lead form automatically, and all you have to do is hit submit.
Oh yeah, so that's great. Yeah, so that must really help. And does it not work that way with Facebook because it doesn't have job title or phone number necessarily?
So it fills in all it knows, but usually doesn't know the job title. So usually you will get things that look less conformed as LinkedIn. Like you're going to get a lot of interesting title names. So.
I'm the CEO of my life on Facebook. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I mean, that's a good part to know. I think when we talk about content, this is a big one as you kind of start to optimize and you get a little bit more mature in your Google ads. This is kind of what happens after you've had campaigns going for a month, is your Google quality scores could be impacted. And I found that these take a lot more time than even just checking my bidding strategies and my exclusion lists, is really trying to get something that Google thinks is effective. And there's a couple of factors in this algorithm. One is how often you get clicks on your ads. That's a quality score. Google knows when people have converted because you've set up the conversion tracking. So they also know if your landing page is effective. And so that's a big part of it too, that you're, if you're selling free, if your ad says free TVs, which you should never use free, but if your ad says free TVs and then you get to a landing page, there's no free TV there, like Google's not going to run your ad. So there's a little bit of honor there that you want to make sure that your ad is providing the product, because that is going to cause like very much the like cohesive experience for the lead flow. And for, just for a typical SEM campaign, this is an example of one that we're running right now. Like we're using talent acquisition, talent tools, global talent acquisition are all kind of keywords I have in my campaign right now in an ad group. The ads talk about all of those keywords in them, and, really try to limit your keywords to ads so you keep that relevance high. You can see in the ad, I talk about talent, I talk about talent acquisition, I talk about talent acquisition goals, those kind of things. Then if they click on that ad, they go to a landing page where the headline says talent, where the subhead says talent, where I have something in the form fill that mentions talent. I really want to make it very cohesive to that product, to really increase my Google quality score. And it really impacts everything. It is hard in the B2B space to get that quality score up. And it may mean that, you really have to keep editing and have to keep following Google suggestions, which we don't even have time to get into today, but in suggestions in the headlines section of adding more headlines, getting more suggestions in there, updating it, going through and looking again. Maybe talent acquisition is just its own keyword group with a very talent acquisition ad and a very talent acquisition landing page. And maybe global is a different one with a different ads with different landing pages. There's sometimes you do have to break those apart to really dig down to get that quality score up. And the reason, I've sort of said it before, but one of the reasons you need that higher quality score is it's going to get your ad shown more. It's a little self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a little Google moneymaker business, but the more your ad gets clicked on, the more money Google makes, right? And technically the more money you should make. And so Google wants to show the ads on those search results pages that are going to get clicked on the most. Bottom line, if your landing page isn't about selling sneakers, but your ad is, you're just going to drop. So it's a nice way to really check yourself of why am I not having Google quality scores, and go back and dig deeper and see if you can make improvements there. But it is hard to do in the B2B space, but it's not impossible, and it can really have very much long-term impacts on efficiencies in your account.
So it's kind of a little bit, actually quite a bit different from what
it's quite a bit different in social.
It's quite a bit different in social, but LT made a great point. When you have an ad out and you're seeing something free or something, your landing page better reference that. Because I think there's a lot of times where you click on an ad and you go to a landing page, it just says get free trial. It has nothing to do with the offer in the ad. So keeping it consistent, that's one similarity. But in paid social, there's nothing like quality score. It's actually in terms of how much you want to bid.
Oh, wow.
The more you bid, the more you're going to get on the feed. But like I said, if you bid low and your ad is amazing, you can still get leads. So, so this is where content becomes a huge thing, in that you just got to be short. And you can see the intro text. If your intro text is too long, it's going to get cut off. And no one's going to, there's going to be a more button to click on. No one's going to click on that, right? So you got to be short to the point. And we noticed the word download is really good. Instant download is really good. So for guides
is it
and stuff.
Instant download, Colin? Do they get it right away? It's not emailed to them?
They get it right away right when it hits submit,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. After they submit. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's the thing, you want to be true to your word.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and another thing is you could be, depending on you got to follow your branding, of course, but be creative, be different. Even though we're in the B2B software space, we just got into TikTok. TikTok is very different. So don't be afraid to use video as well. Video is the new way to go and pay social, and you can still get leads off of videos. And when I say videos, it doesn't mean a 2-minute video. We do a lot of GIFs or GIFs, whatever you want to call that. So we make it 10 seconds, and that's the sweet spot in these paid social is 10 seconds of like GIFs or 10 seconds of an explanation video or animation. So static images still work really well for us, but have a good mix. And so we've noticed that people get a lot of content fatigue. And that doesn't mean you go and write more different content, just change your ad. And people might think it's a different content piece. So just think of ways to be efficient, because I know we're all so busy that we can't just be pumping out so much content. So if one content works, just learn how to iterate it. And that's where it just learns how, and do a lot of testing as well. So for example, on LinkedIn, you could test 5 different you can test as many ads as you want, but I recommend testing 2.
Just having an A/B with the same content piece, but different ads as they offer. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly. And you just pick one thing to test, whether that be text or image. Don't do both. So that's what I told everybody. And content is very important, and also pick content that people like. And this is where it ties back to the audience and what their pain points are. And I think another thing that's really helpful is talk about how you can help the prospect, not what your product does and why is it so great. Yeah.
You want to address what you think that you can do better. I think we know that as marketers that not everything can solve our problems, but if you can just take a little edge off it, and which Colin, you sort of speak to, one of the things that we're getting sold now is like these Giphy makers and little things that make ads, and any of these little products are, that's what we're seeing ads for. And that's a pain point for us to try to up-level our social ads.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have our final recommendations. So it's very hard in the SEM space to really get to an evergreen ad. You're just going to have to keep optimizing, rinsing, and repeating so that doesn't happen. And I think one thing that we're probably both going to touch on is that recommendation. Colin touched on that before. Google will easily tell you all the time, to get max, you need to increase your budget to 300 a day. You need to increase it to 3,000 to increase. Of course you do. Of course, if you increased your budget, you get more leads. Is it too many leads for your sales team? That could be an issue. Is it more bad leads too that kind of get in your system? I don't know if you guys have had this experience with sales before, but if I send them 9 good leads and 1 bad lead, they want to talk about that 1 bad lead. They don't want to talk about the 9 good ones. So quality is important. So not necessarily taking the Google recommendation of increasing your budget increases your overall marketing experience and your MQLs from that channel. So I think that's important too. You definitely can work on ad strength. You can test conversion pixels, make sure you do those. And really look at the responsive ads headlines. I think there's an opportunity to put almost 20 in them for each ad. Really go in and do that. Don't just put in 3 like Google will tell you, and that does help increase your quality score. For Google, you can also add call-out extensions, site link extensions, and structured snippet. If you're building out an ad group, plan on building these out too. You want as much real estate as you can. It all increases your click-through rate. Only one ad, usually on a search results page, will have all of the call out and the site link extensions, and that's a quality score to get to that. And you want to get to that. So you want to make sure you have all those already built in on your ads. So if Google does show you that high, that will increase your click-through rate. Structured snippets are another one to add, just to get, the more you can get in there, the better. It just gives you more space on the search results page. So those are my big recommendations. Colin?
So for me, just real quickly, like before, trust your analysis. Know the difference between paid media and organic. So organic is meaning like build up your LinkedIn page, your Facebook page, and driving traffic there. That's called organic. Paid is driving leads and paying to drive website visits. So you need a strong LinkedIn page and Facebook page to have a strong paid media as well, because people will go to your Facebook page and you could add followers through paid as well. Set up attribution so you can study down funnel stats. So really set up your CRM really well with your paid channels. And so you can see how much pipeline, how much revenue. So the more revenue you get, the more you get to spend, the more you get to experiment. And don't be afraid to cut the cord with your ads. So I know some ads are like your baby, but sometimes you just gotta let it go. Like I've become so attached to ads sometimes that I don't want to let it go. But some of these ads just do not perform. It's not your fault. You tried everything. It just doesn't resonate with the audience.
They can't all be winners.
Yes.
Awesome, guys. Well, that was a phenomenal presentation. Thank you so much. I want to get into, we have a little bit of time to get into some questions from our audience members. So maybe we'll take a couple now. Let me just scroll through. There's been a lot that have come through. So, okay, I think this is a good one for you, Lauren. This person is saying that they're getting a lot of clicks from their conversion rate. They're getting a lot of clicks, but their conversion rate is still low. How can they fix it?
So I think if you're getting a lot of clicks, the page that you're sending them to on the ad either isn't really answering the question you're saying on the ad. I think Colin touched on this. If you're saying in your ad it's a download and then your whole page is about a free trial offer and not about a downloaded piece of content, that's going to affect your actual conversion rate. I think really making sure that landing page experiences delivers on the promise you set forth in your ad. If you have a new Giphy maker, that's going to make it easier to make social ads and in a jiffy, and you can just do this really quickly, and then your landing page is not selling that product efficiently, that's really going to affect it. You may want to look at what you're spending on your cost per click. If you're getting a ton of clicks, maybe you need to kind of look at your bidding and your audiences as well. That could be a time to go back and check that as well, and seeing where you usually can see that in your Google account, like where the clicks are coming through. You also could be getting clicks at the wrong time of night. I've had campaigns that I didn't have India as an exclusion. Well, India is a huge country with a ton of people, and so they could click on ads about recruiters or resumes, and they're looking for themselves. And then I was able to kind of just be like, oh no, I guess I need to exclude India from these campaigns because those were causing a lot of clicks as well.
Awesome. Okay. All right, Colin, this one's a good one for you. What's a good click-through rate benchmark for LinkedIn?
I think a good click-through rate is 0.5% for paid for lead gen. But if you're doing a brand awareness, it's a little higher, around 0.7. So when you're doing lead gen, I'm not so concerned about the click-through rate unless it's super low. I'm just more concerned on how much lead coming in and the cost per lead. But if you're doing brand awareness, website driving, I would concentrate on the click-through rate a lot, because that is meaning how many people are clicking to your website, and that's what you're getting measured on mostly. So if you're just doing lead gen and built-in lead forms, I would recommend 0.5%, just making sure you get a pretty good volume clicking through. And another one is how many click through, but then click through the form. There's another stat to look through as well.
Okay, awesome. All right, Lauren, which format of a PPC or pay-per-click ad would you say is the most effective?
I think they've kind of pushed towards only being one at this point. I think you could still do a regular text ad, but it's the responsive headline ads. That's the one I mentioned at the end, where you're putting up to 20 headlines and then Google is sort of shuffling them all together. So it can be a little bit of a writing puzzle because you want to make a lot of snippets of text that all fit together to do headlines, but Google will just show the one that performs and gets the most clicks. the most, the algorithm will show that one. So that can be really helpful. Google also gives you suggestions of headlines for those responsive headline ads. So those would be most efficient, I think, and the best way to kind of get started.
Awesome. Okay. This is an interesting question here for you, Colin. My LinkedIn rep is telling me I need to do more brand awareness ads. Do I listen to them or no?
So I went through that problem. So your LinkedIn rep can be very helpful, but can be try to get as much money out of you as possible. So that's when you have to really balance, like, they really want you to push a lot of brand awareness because that's easy to set up. And then, like, for example, we had to decline their offer where they wanted us to spend a whole bunch of money on it. And we just realized, like, we don't need to. Like, when you're doing lead gen, you're kind of doing brand awareness too, because people are seeing your ads still. And so just brand awareness is good to do it in small chunks, especially if you just want to create, like, some brand loyalty or some awareness to a new product. Or if one of your lead gen content is not working, you can switch that to brand awareness. But you don't need to blow it up to, like, a huge amount if you're running a lot of lead gen. And in terms of your account manager, just really, like, think about what they say, and you don't have to do everything they say, because in a way, you know your account better than them. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, don't let them sell you, because that's obviously ultimately their job, or at least part of it is to do that. So good points there. Okay, LT, this is kind of a twofold one. I think you've talked a little bit about the second half of this one, but how much should I spend on search engine advertising? And then the second piece of it is, how do you find the right keywords to bid on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's easy to kind of, especially if you want to get started and you're maybe in the SMB space or the startup space and you really don't want to spend money on an agency doing the work for you. Everything's available for you inside the Google Ads account. There's a monthly search volume. They have a keyword planner in there. You can start to kind of put in your keywords. It can tell you kind of the cost on those to get how much you would spend a month. I would start with probably like 10 to 15 keywords, maybe even less than that, because again, you want to have that ad group content experience to the landing page. And if you add too many, you might not be able to really create a nice quality experience for the prospects. And I think on budget, I've done as small as, it doesn't maybe seem small, but like 500 a month to also as small as 10,000. At ZoomInfo, our budgets are well above that. It really depends on how much you can, kind of afford to lose, kind of afford to play with test-wise on your budget, because it's not like another channel where you kind of have a guaranteed, quality lead coming in. It can be a little bit gambling as you kind of start out. So I would start out small with a couple of keywords, a couple of budgets, if you really, are really starting new, and a couple of landing page experiences to really kind of get through it. But you can get a lot from that. I've spent very little, and I've also seen a lot of ROI at the other end, because you are getting people that are actively searching for something that hopefully is what your product is or selling. So that's a huge, obviously, intent signal.
Awesome. All righty. Well, we're going to end on that because we are getting close to time here, and I don't want to take any more of anybody's time. Thank you all audience members for joining us today. Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Colin, for all your expertise. This is a lot of information. I know that I've learned a lot specifically, so I'm very happy with all the details you delivered. So thank you so much. Everybody in the audience, we talked a little bit about, or the experts touched upon how ZoomInfo can support you when it comes to building your audiences and things like that. And for all of you marketers in the audience, know that we've now created a dedicated platform called Marketing OS for you. To really have your own space in being able to access the data that ZoomInfo has, be able to build those audiences and a variety of other things. So we've got a little ad on our audience console for you to be able to click on. Feel free to check that out, set up a demo if you're interested in learning more, or contact us on LinkedIn if you're interested in just getting some feedback on your ads or how your programs are functioning. So thank you all for joining us again, and we'll talk to you soon.